Welcome to the STEM Pathways podcast, where we delve into the fascinating world of science, technology, engineering, and math. I'm your host, Rohan Sharma, a passionate explorer of all things STEM. Each episode, we bring you captivating stories, cutting edge research, and inspiring interviews with experts and enthusiasts who are pushing the boundaries of innovation. Whether you're a student, a professional, or just curious about how the world works, join us as we unlock the mysteries of the universe and explore the endless possibilities of STEM. Let's get started. Today I'll be interviewing Ajay Janardanan, who holds a master's in electrical engineering from Georgia Tech. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you, Ron?
I'm doing good, and thanks for coming on the podcast. So to get
Yeah.
started, I wanted to ask what made you choose your major for your bachelor's degree?
Yeah. So I think bachelor. So I want to take a step back and actually go to my high school where we actually had our career paths, which we had to choose between, say, engineering or medicine. Because so yeah, before I get started on what made me choose, I just want to tell you and the viewers is I am originally from Mumbai, India. So growing up in that background in the Indian education system, you pretty much after say when you're in high school, you have uh, two career paths for you. You're either doing medical or you're either doing engineering. So for me, engineering was the better option at that time because I wasn't really interested in medicine. So and to get into engineering, in my high school, I did courses which were classified as vocational. So you have your electrical, it was called electronics, and then computers, and then instrumentation, and then you had other sciences like pure sciences. So obviously, after choosing vocational or the electronics part of the offering, I was my logical next step to do my bachelor's in engineering was to go into electronics engineering, and again in while I was choosing my major there, you had an option between electronics and computer engineering. And the reason I decided to go for electronics was because I was more interested in especially hardware versus software. I was more interested in like the physical aspect of engineering. So hardware is something that you can actually touch and feel and run your experiments and go to a lab and actually look at stuff. Whereas computer engineering to me was a little more abstract in how people code, and you basically have code run on hardware. Not to say that computer engineering doesn't require a lot of skill. I think it requires a lot of skill. Coding is yeah, it's an intelligent man's game, coding. But for me, because of my interest in doing more physical things, I actually wanted to do hardware, and that is why I chose electronics.
Yeah. So after going to the VES Institute of Technology, you went on to do a
Mhm.
master's at Georgia Tech. What was your experience
Yeah.
like there?
So I actually wasn't. I actually didn't know a lot about education in the USA when I started my bachelor's. But we had a professor in our, I want to say, sophomore year of engineering who basically had done his master's from USD, Southern California, and he was the one who basically introduced us to what masters in the USA could look like, and he was the one who had us taking these extra courses which he would design in the field of VLSI. And I thought that was a really good exposure for me to understand how education and how life would be in the US. So a lot of credit to him. And before joining Georgia Tech, obviously I was applying to all these schools. I was fortunate to get admits from a lot of schools. Um, the reason I chose Georgia Tech was obviously because it was a really high-rated university. I think it's the number two in now in uh, uh, public institute amongst engineering for different fields. The other reason also was a lot of my friends in my bachelor's class and my undergrad class also made it to Georgia Tech. So it was kind of it was in addition to the study and the education aspect of it, it was also like a fun thing, right? All of us leaving the country for the first time, going to the US, getting our masters, and getting to stay together and experiencing that lifestyle and everything together. So that's why I chose Georgia Tech.
Yeah. So what was your first job after finishing your master's?
My first job after finishing my master's was at Qualcomm as analog IC design engineer, and um, in my master's, our first focus, obviously, after the first semester, is to land an internship because you need that exposure. And when you do masters, you don't have a lot of time as an international student. You have like 3 or 4 semesters at the most. So you have to make an impression to get a good job. So I was fortunate enough to get an internship with Qualcomm in Raleigh, North Carolina, and that's how that internship got converted to full time. So after I was done with my internship, they gave me an offer. I went back to school, finished my last semester, and then joined Qualcomm.
Yeah. And what kind of work were you doing there?
It was pretty much what I had done back. It was an extension of what I was doing for my master's. It was like a lot of it was analog power design, which was which honestly I think to this day is kind of a niche field even in hardware engineering. So it was analog IC design, especially power management. It's a really cool field, but not a lot of people do that. And even at Georgia Tech, when I was taking those courses, I could see the same little group of people. You'd see each other in all these different courses, and it was like a really tight knit group. So yeah, that was my job. Pretty much working on hardware. So it was basically I worked on power management solutions for the Snapdragon range of processors for mobile processors, which Qualcomm makes.
Yeah. So what did you do after working at Qualcomm?
After working at Qualcomm, basically, I think I worked at Qualcomm for about 4.5 years, and at that point, the company was transitioning out of doing what our team was doing, so it was pretty natural for us to pretty much everybody in our team started looking for new opportunities, and that's when I moved cross country from Raleigh, North Carolina, to where I'm currently in Hillsboro, Oregon, and I joined Intel. And I basically joined as an analog design engineer again. So my work that I'd done at Qualcomm was pretty relevant in what I was doing at Intel too. And I've been at Intel for the last 6 years or so.
Yeah. How big of a difference was it moving across the country like that?
It was to me, it was a big change, especially because for some reason or the other, I only had 2 days to make that move because I had been pushing my start date out at Intel for so long. They pretty much gave me a deadline saying I needed to join by this day, and I still remember quitting my job at Qualcomm on the 14th of December 2018 and joining Intel on 17th. So I basically had 2 days. It was honestly the move because everything was taken care of. The company wasn't that bad. It did take me a little while to get over the jet lag, even though it's 3 hours. But I remember just going to my orientation the first day at Intel, and just like just feeling sleepy because I was just so tired. But I think in the long run it worked out and it's been great at Intel so far.
Yeah. So if you had to give someone who's still in high school or early in college one piece of advice and they want to follow a similar career
Mhm.
path as you, what would you say?
I think one of the first things that I would say is basically take as many courses as you can and just find out what interests you. Because one of the first things I found out when I got here and started doing my masters was just the level, was just the depth and the breadth of courses being offered to senior students in college. And I would just look at those courses and I actually ended up taking a couple of senior level classes just because it just sets you up so well for your career. So in college, I know there's a lot of one-on-one courses being offered, and sometimes to me, just the difference in education in India and here, I actually had to go through those. So I would just suggest people to try and see what they like and take as many courses as they like. And obviously you need to also have fun while taking these courses, because masters for me was only 3 semesters, and only in the last semester when I had 2 courses was when I could really enjoy college or the whole campus feeling. All the other 2 semesters I was like completely like surrounded by books. So yeah, just have fun, take as many courses as you can, and just find what interests you.
All right, then. Thank you for joining me on the podcast today.
Thank you so much.